Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm meadsyreplays and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to have a look at the T110E4 and how this tank is just falling behind literally like all the other tanks in its tier. It hasn't been touched. I mean, all the other tanks around it are sort of being buffed. Where this has always sort of been left alone, and it's a shame. It is a shame because I once absolutely loved the E4. Now, the disappointing thing, there's a couple of disappointing things about the E4. One of them is the fact that the tier 9 version of this, the T30, is just so much better than this in pretty much every single way, every way, and that it leads to the other disappointing thing, and that is the hatch on top. The hatch on top is just so weak, and for me, that's what makes the T30 much better than the E4. So I would actually love for Wargaming to swap these around, put this in tier 9 and put the T30 in tier 10, or just buff the hatch. I mean, they've done it with the E3. The E3 is just amazing, like absolutely amazing. It was better than this anyway, and they, because of the arm profile, it was just so much better than this. Wargaming sort of made the E3 go very, very quick. Now, the only reason back in the day you would play the E4 over the E3 is because it has a turret and because it is much faster, where now the E3 and the E4 goes exactly the same speed. And not only that, the E3 has the speed boost to make it go even faster. Wargaming never gave it to the E4. Like, I don't know why, but there must be reasons. And it's a shame. It could have done with a speed boost, and that's because I would love to get into those hold down positions and then sort of just use the speed boost to get a shot off, use the speed boost to back up much quicker, because the hatch on top is actually really big and the whole of the hatch is weak. So that's the biggest downfall with this tank, is that hatch on top. Okay, you can say that if Wargaming does buff the hatch, then the tank will be OP. In a way, it'll be very, very nice, and that is all Wargaming needs to do to make this tank like extremely good. But it will literally just fit in with the other tanks in tier 10, where at the minute it's falling behind, and for me it's just falling behind. Doesn't mean I don't like the tank. It is a nice tank. It's got a lovely gun. The gun is exactly the same as the E3, so it's got the same penetration, it has the same alpha, same reload, pretty much all that. However, it does fall behind also on the aim time and the dispersion. So not only is the E3 got better armor, better speed because it has the speed boost, a better hatch, it also has better gun depression. It has 8 degrees of gun depression, I think, and this has 6 or something like that. And it has better aim time and better dispersion. So it's better than this in every way. The only thing it hasn't got is the turret. I mean, the E3 hasn't got a turret. It's a turretless TD. But you don't need it. With the speed boost, you don't so much need it now. If you're getting flanked around, you just use the speed boost and you do traverse much quicker. Fair enough, there are probably a lot of medium tanks that even with the speed boost wouldn't really matter, but you just don't get yourself into those positions where you can circle, or where you can get circled. Doesn't mean that this tank doesn't perform well. I mean, the E3, the 90-day win rate is 55%. This is 50%. So that's actually quite a big difference. That is quite a big difference. Not a lot of people are winning. 50% is pretty low. So almost people lose more than they do win with this tank. Basically dead on, well, almost. It's average. It's average. But you want it sort of above the 50% overall. Just like the E3, 55%. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good win rate for a tier 10 tank. The E3, actually, if you look at the stats on the E3 does perform. It's one of the best performing TDs in tier 10 currently. maybe it is the best performing TD overall. Like it's such a fantastic tank, and it's definitely a line that I would recommend going for over the E4, because it's more fun to play. Just seeing those bounces, getting in a hold down position and people bouncing on the hatch is just amazing. However, I don't think Wargaming should buff the hatch like as strong as the E3. I do think that the E3's hatch is a little bit overpowered. Maybe they could buff like the outsides of it and sort of relieve the middle of the hatch pennable, so you can still easily be penned if you're stuck in a hold down position and not moving. But if you're wiggling and side to side and etc., then it does become a much difficult pen. So I don't want it so it's overpowered, because I do honestly think if they did buff the hatch like the E3's hatch, it would be overpowered, because that is literally for me that's the only downfall with the E4, and that's why I love playing the T30 over the E4, because the T30 hasn't got that big massive hatch. But as I've said, it still doesn't mean that you can't perform well. I had my highest ever damage in this tank for a very, very long time. You can get into those positions. I think it was 7.8k damage back before replays were even introduced. So you can perform well. You just got to get those in those positions. It has got a nice hull. Obviously, like most tanks, the bottom of the hull, the lower hull, is quite weak, and the turret is like almost 300 millimeters, so you can get the turret really, really strong, but you just have to hide somehow. You have to hide the hatch on the tank. So yeah, that is the E4. We're just going to finish out this game. Do I think it's worth grinding? Currently, probably not. I wouldn't recommend the E4 to grind currently. There are better tanks overall that I would prefer to grind. TD wise, I mean, it is falling behind. The DPM is nice. I mean, it's almost 3,000. It's pretty average, I suppose. Penetration, I think 285. Again, it's pretty average for tier 10. It does have the APCR instead of heat, so I probably wouldn't run it with calibrated shells. I would run it with the rammer just to get that DPM up a little bit more. The penetration, it has plenty of penetration, 296 I think, and you have 375 on your APCR. So penetration wise is again average for the TDs in tier 10, but I would still run it with calibrated shells. I don't think with rammer. I don't think it needs the calibrated shells. So overall, not the line I would grind. Not the line I would grind currently. There's much better lines to grind in the game than the E4. But for now, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I am meadsy69, and I will catch you all soon. Bye bye.